This year it's a week different, a week later, so we're 3 weeks in preparation. So, but we're approaching it the very same way, and we want our guys fresh. We want them ready to go and excited about it, and they are. And so we're just going through the normal routine of getting ready for a football game and hopefully go down there and win this game with Toledo.
With playing Toledo for a second straight year, just different venue, do you think that helps with the preparation, or does that hurt at all?
Well, I think it helps in a sense if you know a little bit about their personnel, because there's several of those guys that played against us last year, and you watch back on film. It's a year later, so they're a little bit stronger and bigger and all those things that are associated with a year later. But it certainly helps in that regard. So you know some personnel. But as far as game planning goes, you treat it the same way as you do any opponent this year. I mean, we're going back and looking at what they've done this year, their strengths, their weaknesses, how are we going to attack them in all three phases. In that sense, it really doesn't change anything. It's a normal game prep, getting ready for any kind of opponent.
Special teams last year, you had a kick return for a touchdown.
Yep.
How do you think special teams might play in this game?
Well, I mean, I think I think both teams are very similar. If I go back and look at some of the film from them, and then also the stats, I mean, they're very similar in what we're doing. Their net punting is about like ours. It's not very good, but their return game is pretty good. It's kind of like ours. So I think it'll be certainly one phase of it. It was huge for us last year, and so you just want to be very solid in the kicking game and not give up any kind of big plays. And hopefully, when we get an opportunity, that we'll be able to make it. I think Isaiah's done some great things as far as the kick return game goes to set our offense up. So if we can get some big plays there, basically you're stealing yardage in our minds, then that would be huge. Their punt returner's got, I think he's averaging maybe 11 to 13 yards of return, which that can change games. So you certainly want to be able to hang the ball up high in the punt game and not give up any big returns.
Coach is well documented that they have a very potent offense, but defensively they're giving up over 166 yards on the ground. Plays right into your hands. How you plan to exploit that?
Well, I think we certainly want to be able to run the football. That's the case for any of our games we go into. They have some really good players. I mean, I think their linebackers play downhill. Their defensive line is very solid, very good players. Some of that can be skewed depending on the league you're playing in. So you don't really know about that. I think so. For us, we're going to set our game plan up to run the football. We obviously want to be able to throw the football down the field. We were not very effective last year in throwing the ball against them. We at times had some plays, but we had several drops, and we didn't really rely on that passing game. So I think this year, hopefully, we'll be more balanced and be able to throw the football a little bit more as well.
Scott, last year, Taylor had a lot of success running the ball. Are you seeing some of the same tendencies or keys in their defense this year that you think might allow for?
Yeah, you go back and look at some of the games. Two of the games they give up the most yards and points were Ohio and Tulsa. And in both of those games, their quarterback ran the football. And I think, in order for us to be successful, and you can go back to all of our games, when Taylor is able to run the football, make some plays with our zone read type play, and he's getting the ball down the field, he's turning out those first downs, in particular touchdowns, then that's going to give us a great opportunity, I think, to move the ball offensively. And I think one of the keys from last year's game was, as well as the time of possession, we were able to keep the ball and keep it away from their potent offense. And I think that's certainly going to be the case this year. If we can convert those third downs, that's going to be a critical stat as we start looking at stats in the game.
Getting up the team you're playing against, very familiar with the coaching staff. How's that change anything in the preparation or get you guys prepared?
Well, I mean, again, we're familiar with those guys. Having played them against last year, you're down there for a week, you run into them and talk to them. And Kendall's a good friend of mine. I mean, we talked throughout the offseason, that type of thing. I don't think it has anything to do with the game and the game prep. They're going to look at our film and get their game prep and what they're going to do against us, and the same for us. It's very similar. When you're playing guys that and you're familiar with. This year we played Georgia State and Georgia Southern. I'm familiar with both of those coaching staffs and those head coaches. So it's a very similar situation. You're just looking at the film and looking at those players. Those coaches aren't on that field playing. So you got to get those players playing in order for you to win the game.
Difficult to prepare for a bowl week and have a signing period at the same time?
Well, no. Hopefully all that work's done prior to signing on Wednesday. We had a huge weekend last weekend, and we've had recruits in this week as well, and we're going out on the road recruiting at the end of this week, and so all that stuff it does play into the preparation throughout the 3 weeks, I think. But once we get to the bowl site down there in Mobile, then we're all Toledo, and we're not worried about the recruiting aspect of it. We just hope all the guys that are committed to us will sign on Wednesday. That'll make our lives a lot easier, I think.
So you talked about, obviously, their passing game and running game are both really strong. Which one do you think is more important to key in on to kind of?
Well, I mean, you got to be able to stop both. I mean, that's what's unique about their offense. They're, I think they're 8th in the country in total offense, but they're rushing for 220 a game and throwing for 290. I mean, you got to stop both. I mean, if you don't, they're going to beat you in either aspect. So that's the difficulty in this matchup. And defensively, we got to play our best game of the season. I mean, this is the best offense we've faced this year, and they got a lot of weapons. And so a lot of things can come into that. If you can get pressure on the quarterback, if you can turn them over, if you can hold them to field goals and not get the big plays. I mean, all those things will be factors in this football game and to how well or success we're going to have by the end of it.
Kind of a careful question. You're going to have activities going on during the week.
Yeah.
How does that affect your?
Well, I think
you mentioned it's Steve.
Yeah, well, I think part of the bowl experience is for our players to be able to experience the city that you're in. We're going to Mobile. They're going to have a lot of activities set up for our guys, and you're there for several days. So, when it's time to meet and practice, our guys will focus in on that. And when it's time to have fun and enjoy the city and those type of activities, then our guys are going to do that as well. I want to let our guys embrace that city, embrace the people of Mobile, and have the experience when they come away from there that they really enjoy. And that's what bowl season is all about, for that week to enjoy the city and enjoy camaraderie, to enjoy the alumni and the fans that are going to be coming to the game. All those things combined into one is having fun, and that's what it's all about.
Can you, I don't know if over-prepare, but you've had three, few weeks to do this. Going into that week, you more or less know what you want to do, and it's just a question of.
Well, I think you're right. You obviously have plenty of time to put a lot of offense, defense, kicking game in. But we don't want to bog our guys down. We've been successful doing what we do. We're going to stick with our game plan of what we're good at, and that's what we're going to be able to accomplish in that game. I don't want to put a lot of stuff in the game this week, and guys going out and not knowing what they're doing. We want to be able to play fast and have a great knowledge of our game plan.
Without giving anything away, but do you add some things maybe you haven't done? Also, as far as maybe a trick play here?
No, I mean, I think for us, we've ran some of those type plays throughout the season. We're gonna do what we do, and offensively run the football, throw it, try to set up situations where we can move the ball, ever what that means, and get the ball to certain playmakers. I mean, I think our job as coaches is to find the guys that are going to make plays and let them have the ball. I think that's the main issue with us offensively.
Bowl week, but be remiss if we didn't at least have a conversation about Scott Sloan's decision to leave the program. If you would, kind of give a little bit of an assessment of Scott's contributions to the program over the years, and then it's kind of back to business. You got a couple of important roles you've got to replace with him on the staff.
Yeah, I mean, I think first and foremost, just working with our secondary and the integral part that he had on our defense and our defensive staff, putting together game plans and really his impact on our players, very positive impact, and the way he handles his players. And then I think the recruiting aspect. He's been our recruiting coordinator and been a huge asset in that regard, and bringing a lot of talent up here on the mountain. And so those are things that have to be replaced, and guys that whoever we do hire, and then the rest of the staff pick up where he left off with that. And but he had an outstanding. Did an outstanding job throughout his tenure here at App State, and we wish him nothing but the best, except for 1 week whenever we play him.
Yeah, that's got to be. There's got to be a little bit of extra vinever.
That's right.
That is Georgia Southern.
That's right.
But I guess that's just the nature of the business.
It's a great opportunity. I mean, it's he just the chance to call the defense, and it just so happens it's at our rival school. But it's a place where he's been before, so he's very familiar. And I know Chad very well. He knows him. He's a good guy, and we wish him the best and success. Again, except for when we play him. Whenever you start that game and that game week, it's just like any other. I mean, this App versus Georgia Southern, we're going to try to win. They're going to try to win, and at the end of it, we'll still be friends. But I mean, it's. As longer I've been in this business, you're going to come across a lot of people that you know and you respect, and but it's still time to come win a football game. You got to do the best job you can do to win the football game, and you let that the personal side of it go to the wayside for 4 quarters, and then you're right back to being friends like you always were.
A lot of coaches on this staff have talked about just like the atmosphere you guys have created here. But how hard is that to maintain when you have success at a program, especially like a G5 program where guys are going to be pluck to like probably every year.
Well, I mean, yeah, we listen. Our guys are getting calls every year to leave, and sometimes they choose to stay, and sometimes they choose to leave. And but we've created a culture here that the guys want to be in. Our coaching staffs, they don't want to leave; they want to be here. You know, whenever an opportunity is too big to turn down, then they end up taking it. And I don't blame them. I want all these guys to be successful. They all have goals, dreams, aspirations, and I'm all for that. You know, for my job here is to create a culture and an atmosphere that guys want to be in, that can excel and can continue their careers. And that's what my job is all about. And you know, so I'm happy for these guys that have moved on. They've had great success. Everybody that's moved on is still having continued success, and it just speaks volumes of our program here and what we've been able to accomplish here at Appalachian State. That people want a part of that, and they want a piece of that. And so you know, to me, I think it's a compliment to our program, and it's my job to continue to bring guys in here that are going to fit our culture and that will continue the maintain the excellence that we've been able to have here over the years.
Again, I know the focus is on bowl time right now, as it should be, but do you have kind of a timeline in your mind? I know you've got AFCA coming up, you know, in the early part of the year. For, you know, your thoughts on, hey, I'd like to have some stuff decided by this point. And, you know, I'm sure you've got a lot of connections in this business. You've probably got some candidates in mind right now.
Yeah, certainly. And, you know, whenever it hits the wire, the phones start blowing up, you know, and all our staff calls and that, you know, but for us, we want to get someone in here certainly in January. We'll start spring practice hopefully in February. And, you know, so if we can get someone in here and, again, for me, it's all about fit. I mean, I think I want the right kind of people around our student athletes and around our staff. And so that's what I'm going to be looking for, you know, the guy with the right fit. And there's a ton of candidates and a lot of great coaches out there that have, you know, called my phone, called our other staff members' phones and trying to get their name in the hat. And a lot of great candidates out there, so we'll get a great coach in here.
So what's the procedure? Like, are you kind of putting a list together and interviewing them?
Well, you always have people in mind. I always have people in mind at every position group and kind of guys that I want on our staff. And, you know, so, you know, the procedures start to reach out and contact some of these people and, you know, find their interest level, and then, you know, you just move forward from there. You know, we're going to get through the bowl game, and then obviously Christmas time, and then, you know, mention the convention. AFCA convention is always huge time for coaches. I think that's the time where, you know, and then we may get other guys get calls this, you know, over the next 2 weeks. I mean, so you just kind of, as a head coach, you kind of sit back and kind of let everything go work itself out, and I'm making calls and that kind of thing, and then. I always say it's like musical chairs. When the music stops, you better have somewhere to be, and so we better have somebody, you know, in place. And so usually that happens about January, middle of January, or end of January.
So you made reference to this. You're gonna continue your false advertising campaign of spring camp.
Yeah, that's right.
In February.
Yeah.
Is that the plan again?
Well,
this year?
you know, it is right now unless something changes. But we'd like to get it done before spring break. Our spring break's in 1st of March, and so that means we'd have to start in February and really at the beginning of February. And so our tentative plan right now is to start right around the week of signing date, the second signing date in February, the first part of that week. You know, so we that's actually the plan right now. So we'll see. I mean, a lot of it depends on, you know, coaching staff and all that. If you got coaches in place, obviously we can't start if we don't have coaches. So we got to have coaches in place, and that's what we'd like to start. And then that puts us back from spring break, and we'll have 7 weeks to work with our guys before they go home for that 2.5 week break in between summer sessions. So,
Thanks,
all right,
Scott.
thanks, guys.